look at the polling, though. This is a fresh poll that we literally just got. Okay, I wasn't even sure what it would be, and this is what the poll is. My buddy Gordon, my producer Gordon over there, put this poll in literally as we were doing this presentation. Michigan Senate roll freshly out from Fox News as we're doing this presentation. Look at this. Mike Rogers, the Republican, at 51%. Abdul Assayed is at 47%. So in a state that has not had a Republican United States Senator since, get this, 1994 was the last time Democratic on the Senate level. Can I get a drum roll, please, Nick? Thank you. There it is. Scenario number one is a Democratic sweep at 52% chance. I was surprised by this before we started cracking the numbers, but that is why we do it. It's the numbers. Don't blame me. The numbers.
Welcome back to Clips News. Today, we are taking a deep dive into CNN's data breakdown with Chief Data Analyst Harry Enton as he maps out the numerical probabilities for the 2026 midterm elections. Enton dives into thousands of poll data points to construct 4 distinct political scenarios, evaluating everything from congressional redistricting shifts to Donald Trump's net approval ratings across key battlegrounds. Whether you are following the structural hurdles facing Democrats in the House or examining high-stakes Senate races in Texas, North Carolina, and Michigan, this presentation provides a compelling numbers-driven roadmap of where Washington control stands. Let's analyze how these statistical models break down and what they mean for both parties heading into the midterms.
About scenario number 3. What are we talking about here? Well, this comes in at 15%. Not too high, but certainly much higher than less than 1%. And that is a GOP sweep. I wish I had a broom. I'd sweep it across. But hold on, I'm going to tell. Yeah, Nick, next time around, get me a broom, okay? Okay, sounds good. Okay, so a GOP sweep at 15%. How could that happen? How could that happen? Well, take a look at the median seat needed to win control. These were the 2024 presidential results. Based upon redistricting, Trump won the median House seat by 5 points. My goodness gracious, that means that Democrats have to win at least one seat that Trump won by 5 points. What about in the United States Senate? It's even more difficult for Democrats. They have to win at least one seat that Donald Trump won, get this, by 13 points. Woof! That is very, very difficult indeed. So if the map looks anything like it did in 2024, well, Democrats definitely have their work cut out for them in the Senate and in the House as well. Now, beyond that, well, let's just talk about the Democratic brand. You know, Donald Trump's political brand ain't too hot to trot these days. But I got to tell you, PU, when it comes to the Democratic brand, the net favorability rating of the Democratic Party. You know, back in 2018, when Democrats, during the first Trump presidency, right, when they were able to win back control of the House, they were even. They were even, right? Favorable minus unfavorable, even at 0-0-0. Now look at this. 25 points underwater. Oof. Oof. You know, the Dem brand, as I said, it's not too good these days. It's not too good. It kind of smells like a New York sidewalk in the summer. Beyond that, how about this? How about the fact that voters at this point say that the Democratic Party is too far to the left? The left. I'm going my left. I guess that's stage left, right? Take a look. Voters saying the Democratic Party is too liberal. In 1996, it was 42%. 2013, 48%. By an earlier poll this year from the Washington Post, up like a rocket. 57% of voters nationwide said that the Democratic Party was, in fact, too liberal. So the Democratic brand, if this election turns on the Democratic brand, well, then Republicans still have a real shot. It's a low shot, but it's a real shot of maintaining power in Washington, in both the House and the United States Senate. Now, this is exhausting me a little bit, so quick little drink, little cream soda for me. It's good. Okay, what about scenario number 2? Okay, now.
In this segment, Harry Enton breaks down scenario number 3, a 15% probability of a complete Republican sweep across both the House and the Senate. Enton emphasizes the massive structural hill Democrats must climb due to 2024 presidential leanings, noting that Democrats must win a House seat Donald Trump won by 5 points and a Senate seat he carried by 13 points. To add a bit of visual flair, Enton lightheartedly jokes about needing a broom prop to sweep the board, showcasing his energetic studio style. However, the core takeaway here lies in the Democratic Party's brand metrics. Enton highlights staggering figures, showing the Democratic Party's net favorability sitting 25 points underwater, a sharp drop from their even standing during the 2018 midterms. Furthermore, polling data from the Washington Post demonstrates that 57% of voters nationwide now view the Democratic Party as too liberal. Enton argues that if voters cast their ballots primarily on party brand perception rather than opposition to the president, Republicans maintain a viable, albeit narrow, path to retaining full control of Congress.
This is a fresh poll that we literally just got. Okay, I wasn't even sure what it would be, and this is what the poll is. My buddy Gordon, my producer Gordon over there, put this poll in literally as we were doing this presentation. Michigan Senate roll freshly out from Fox News as we're doing this presentation. Look at this. Mike Rogers, the Republican, at 51%. Abdul Assayed is at 47%. So in a state that has not had a Republican United States Senator since, get this, 1994 was the last time that a Republican won a Senate race in the great state of Michigan. Well, guess what? Mike Rogers, in a very high-quality poll from Fox News, one of the best pollsters are out there, leads Abdul Assayed by 4 points. So you can just see how it's very possible with that large Democratic lead on the House ballot in the Senate races, they're not polling in this particular race too hot to trot. And we also know they have to overcome the structural disadvantages of those being some very red states. That being said, up, leading equals good. Oh, I was up. Thank you, Nick. I was so uncertain, but Nick has got it for me. It turns out leading equals good. Thank you so much for that very kind note, Nick. My producer's really helping me out on this one. Let's turn to all the scenarios. We've gone through the Republican House, the Dem Senate, less than 1%. GOP sweep, 15%. Democratic House, Republican Senate, 33%.
This section delivers the highest visual dynamic and on-air energy of the report, as producer Gordon drops a brand new Fox News poll into the presentation mid-broadcast. Harry Enton focuses on the high-stakes Michigan Senate race, featuring Democratic candidate Abdul El-Sayed and Republican candidate Mike Rogers. The freshly released polling reveals Mike Rogers holding a 4-point lead over El-Sayed at 51 to 47%, a notable development in a state that hasn't elected a Republican U.S. Senator since 1994. Enton plays off-camera interactions with his producer Nick, who hands him a handwritten note jokingly reminding him that leading equals good. This lighthearted banter underscores a crucial analytical point. Despite strong national generic ballot numbers for House Democrats, individual statewide Senate races in battlegrounds like Michigan present severe structural friction. The segment perfectly captures the unpredictability of breaking polling data and how sudden shifts in Rust Belt states can complicate national midterm projections.
Well, that only leaves one scenario with a 52% chance of happening, and that is despite the poor polling for Abdul Assayed in a state that normally goes Democratic on the Senate level. Can I get a drum roll, please, Nick? Thank you. There it is. Scenario number one is a Democratic sweep at 52% chance. I was surprised by this before we started cracking the numbers, but that is why we do it. It's the numbers. Don't blame me. The numbers are the numbers. Now, why is this? Why is this the most likely scenario, though it is still about a 50-50 between this and the other ones? Well, why don't we just take a look at some Senate polls beyond what we're seeing, right? 2022 Senate, 2026 Senate margins, beyond what we're seeing in Michigan. Well, North Carolina, you're seeing a 9-point Democratic lead. Maine, a 3-point Democratic lead. Ohio, a 3-point Democratic lead. The average in Texas is a 2-point. James Tallarico slightly ahead of Ken Paxton. And in Iowa, even in Iowa, which hasn't elected a Democratic senator since, 2008, and Tom Harkin? Woof. I believe he's the last Democratic senator elected in Iowa. He's literally the last one since I was born, because Chuck Grassley has been the senator there since, 81? So you put this all together and look at the Senate map. What does that give you? What does that give you? Okay, Dems would, in fact, win the Senate with this map if, in fact, they were able to flip Ohio, if they were able to flip North Carolina, if they were able to flip Texas, if they were able to flip Iowa. If they hold on to their seats, that gets you, you can see it in your screen right here. Look at this. 52 Dems, and 48 Republicans. That's what it would get you. And what's so important here is, as we were literally breaking it down, right, we said, hey, maybe we got to go up to Michigan and that becomes red, right? Maybe that becomes red. And what would that still leave you? Well, that would still leave you Democrats with 51 Senate seats. So given the polling in the other states, even if Michigan went red, Democrats would still be able to hold on to the United States Senate or win control of the United States Senate, even if Abdul al-Sayed goes under Lake Michigan with his electoral prospects. Now, of course,
Moving to the central payoff of the analysis, Harry Enton unveils scenario number 1, a 52% likelihood of a full Democratic sweep of both chambers of Congress. Acknowledging that this result surprised him before running the statistical models, Enton relies on updated Senate polling averages across key states to explain how Democrats could reach a 52 to 48 seat majority. He points to Democratic leads in North Carolina, Maine, Ohio, Texas, and Iowa as the primary engine driving this model. Crucially, Enton points out the defensive cushion Democrats hold on the electoral map. Even if the Republican lead in Michigan holds and Abdul al-Sayed loses that seat, Democrats would still project to hold a 51-seat narrow Senate majority if they flip battlegrounds like Ohio and Texas. Enton stresses that while the race remains close to a toss-up overall, the aggregate polling math currently favors a Democratic takeover of Washington power.
This says it all. All right, Donald Trump at this point has a net approval rating under 20 percentage points, right? His approval rating somewhere in the 30s, his disapproval is in the high 50s, low 60s, depending on what poll you look at. And at this point in the midterm cycle, I went back through the history books because, you know what? Learning is cool, my friends. Learning is cool. And there are only 2 other presidents who had a sub-20 net approval besides Trump at this point in the midterm cycle. Richard Nixon in 1974. He was literally forced to resign just a few days before now, back in 1974. Wasn't alive then. I heard it was a groovy time. And then George W. Bush in 2006 also had a net approval rating under 20 points at this point. Did either one of those 2 folks, did their party hold on or win control of the House or the Senate in the great Congress that is of the United States of America? Did they win either chamber? No. No, they did not. Bush's party lost both of them. Nixon's party, in fact, did not hold on or win control either of them. And that, my friend, in fact, very much leads Donald Trump at this point, as you can see, and his Republican Party looking at a Democratic possibility of winning both the United States and the United States House and the Senate. Numbers talk. I've been told to flip it. This is I really like. And is there a second thing here? Oh, yeah. Here it is. And I just listen. And you know what else I listen to? I listen to your comments. So leave one after this video if you like what you saw or you have suggestions for the next one. Peace out.
In the final section, Harry Enton frames the overarching driver behind the 2026 election environment, public perception of the economy and presidential approval. Pointing to survey data on cost of living, Enton notes that 55% of Americans believe Republican policies have actively hurt their economic situation, compared to just 24% who say those policies have helped, a critical vulnerability on the primary issue that decided the previous presidential cycle. Enton concludes with a striking historical comparison, showing that Donald Trump's net approval rating, sitting under -20 points, places him in rare historical company alongside Richard Nixon in 1974 and George W. Bush in 2006. Noting that neither Nixon's nor Bush's party managed to hold on to either chamber of Congress during those midterm cycles, Enton argues that history strongly favors the opposition party in this environment. Thank you for tuning in to this news breakdown. If you enjoyed this analysis, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to Clips News for daily political commentary and in-depth updates.